Okay, gonna record. This is the HOTUS match, game 1. So this is actually the set of games that I had already pre-recorded and unfortunately was never able to upload. So I can go kind of faster through these. I want to go through them in detail, but the issues that you have in these games also are in the Ghillie Shark games, so I can probably elaborate on them a little bit more in those. Basically, my thought for the game 1 draft boiled down to I think you guys have one way of playing this map, and they banned Dahaka, and then you stuck to that way of playing this map, and didn't really have any way of pivoting in draft or adapting to what they were doing. And I think without Dahaka, it doesn't work nearly as well. So yeah, first of all, I didn't really understand the ETC ban, considering Anubarak, Ana, Maiev were all still up. I'm not sure if they played Maiev at all. But yeah, you gave them Anubarak here, which I don't think you really needed to do. You picked Falstad and Rhaegar, which neither of these heroes are going to be contested by them in draft, most likely. Maybe Falstad is, and if you wanted him for the global, that's kind of reasonable. And then they get Tyrande Raynor, who's also a good healer. Rhaegar's okay, but there also is a lot stronger healers. Then Malthael, that's kind of okay. It's reasonable. Then they banned Jaina, so I think, for example, you could have gotten Jaina over Rhaegar, maybe, if you wanted that, because like they're not going to take Rhaegar away from you most likely, or if they ban it, you should basically you should take the heroes that are going to be contested by them, either them picking it or them banning it, and hold back the heroes that they're likely not going to contest. And then also just have like 2 or 3 replacements in that role for that hero if they do take it away, because they have the opportunity to. So pick Johanna. Thrall, I think, like, right now you're already 3 melee here, and Falstad isn't super great backline. And I feel like you just kind of played into exactly what they want to do, which is, like, they want to fight you, and you have Gust, and that's kind of it in terms of, like, disengage. I mean, you could maybe Earthquake or something, but they want to fight you, they want to dive on you. Their team is also pretty good poke, and you just have Rhaegar healing for poke, which, like, he's okay, but he's not super amazing. Yeah, it felt like you guys just kind of played into them this game and stuck with your comp in a spot where it didn't really work that well, I think. So here you guys were debating if one of you goes to the objective thing, the eye. You do, you win it. Why aren't you guys standing on it, though? Like, you see, they have to come into you while you have vision. This bush is not safe for them to even walk through because they don't know if you're going to be in the bush or not. So you guys won the eye here, and then you all can just go stand in their bush. And then you guaranteed win the eye for this whole duration of the early game, pretty much. Here you're like just letting them walk on it. And now you go stand on it, but someone you could fight you there. So up here you're sending Falstad down. Rhaegar. Johanna doesn't need to be stalling their rotation here, because you don't have any damage to back her up. Like, you stall rotations if A, you're just going to stall them and you're safe, which Johanna can do here and be fine. But B, it's also like if they face check into you, if you can threaten to kill them. But right now, like, Johanna is quote unquote stalling their rotation, but Johanna just has to back up. And they're still going to get to bottom in plenty of time to catch all that soak. So now you guys want to fast clear this wave, which you pretty much do. Now this would be a good time to stall the rotation, because like you guys should have better wave clear than them early game, especially pre-level 4 or whatever. So maybe, for example, you should have started on the bottom wave and just had Thrall be mid. And then that way you could have cleared it sooner, and then all 3 of you been in this left side bush. But here after this, you basically just want to have one go to the camp. Probably Rhaegar, because Falstad wants stacks from the wave. You could have two people do this, and that's fine too. Thrall also wants stacks from the wave and stuff. Johanna always, this is a frequent thing that you guys have, is Johanna always anchors instead of getting soak in the lane, and then you try and bring the offlaner down. Leoric can't double soak before level 4. Like, he just can't. So Johanna can just stay mid here and just like sit in either this bush or the one a little bit higher in the lane, and then you're still there like 2 seconds later if they invade on the camp or whatever. And Falstad and Rhaegar should be able to be fine if they invade the camp, but it's kind of like the vice versa effect of what you guys do against other teams, where previously I was like, you guys are wanting to invade their camp, and it's like, okay, what does invading the camp get you? Or what does them invading your camp get you? Or get them, I mean. And the answer is, they get these 2 minions, you give them to them for free, you don't lose any soak mid, they're probably losing soak mid, they're either getting their camp slower, losing the soak, or losing bottom soak or something. But right now it looks like you're losing top soak, which is kind of just an extension of losing mid soak instead. In worst case scenario, they get these 2 giants and you just free glue them with Falstad or Thrall or something, and then like you don't care. Losing this camp does not matter. You don't need to anchor for it. What is a big deal to lose is the soak in a lane. And so right now you're losing the soak mid. Leoric's getting stalled by Anubarak middle, and so Sonya's free clearing top. So right now it's almost as if they invaded for free, and instead of like winning a siege camp or something, they won a full lane of experience, which is definitely better in the early game, because like getting this camp doesn't instantly get you level 4 or something, right? Cap this camp. Right now you're level 2.5, maybe 2 and 60%, and then you cap the camp. It gets you 20% of a level, right? So this is not worth it, whereas a wave is probably a third or a half a level at this stage of the game. If not, maybe more than that. Maybe it's 2/3 of a level or something. It's very sizable. But most teams, like, for the same reason that I said to you, is most teams are not going to hard invade this early game, especially before level 4 or before getting their camp. The only time teams will invade is if you're, for example, very slow at starting your camp. They can clear their camp fast enough and then just come at you and invade you. And then what they're trying to do in that scenario is not actually take your camp. What they're trying to do in that scenario is make you lose the soak and not defend their camp pushing in the lane. And so they're keeping you out of the lane on the camp instead. But they're not actually wanting the camp. The camp is not their objective. Their objective is to let their camp push in the lane for free and get value from the camp that they already captured. It's very hard to invade early game, just because nobody's going to have a significant lead, and you're out so far on their side of the map that it's such a far way to run back to safety and things like that, that it's much easier for somebody to overextend and die for the attacking team compared to the defending team. The defending team can almost always back up and be safe and not lose pretty much anything. The attacking team is putting themselves more at risk. So if teams are going to do that, you should be on your camps the instant they spawn, which you were, so that they can't do that and don't even have the opportunity to invade, really. Because if they're getting their camp and you're getting your camp and then they're both captured within 5 seconds of each other, they'll just say, okay, there's nothing to invade, right? And then you don't even need to have the anchor there, right? Or if, for example, you're slow or they're just ignoring getting their camp and trying to invade yours instead, is just welcome that and make them lose something somewhere else. Just completely give up the camp and just go hard shove in the other 2 lanes. Like just put 2 mid and 2 bottom and just hard shove in the lanes and make them lose soak somehow. And it will actually set themselves further behind. Like let your opponents outplay themselves. You don't need to. Right now you're the one outplaying yourself, kind of. Right now you're doing the same thing. Johanna can be mid right now getting that soak. You almost never want Thrall and Falstad in the same lane. Or the combination of Thrall and Johanna and Falstad. Basically, you don't need like 4 people in a lane. Right now you're all 4 in the lower side, and then you're all having to rotate. It's much easier to just sit somebody mid. Looks like you didn't lose any minion here. You're going to bruises now, but yeah, Johanna should have or could have just been mid this whole time and cleared the wave faster. The faster you clear the wave, the faster then you can play off vision, and then, for example, you could have come down Maybe looked for a gank on Raynor if he steps out too far, over chasing a Falstad, or something like that. But the wave is the #1 priority. The anchoring is not the priority. If you can't anchor because the wave is here, then Falstad can't step out this far, maybe. In which case he can just let it push and freeze at his towers. And safe soak on his side of the map. But the waves are the priority. The safety isn't the priority. Each person should be able to handle themselves and play safe. And you will lose more soak by trying to anchor constantly and get vision on ganks that aren't even happening. And getting yourselves further behind. See, like, they got their Bruiser camp out very, very ahead of you. And it's similar to, like, on Infernal Shrines, for example. You guys want to be set up on objectives as they come up. Same as camps. Like, you want to be on this camp at 1 minute. You want to be on the objective as this timer is hitting 0. And it's kind of like I said, it's basically that you're starting the objective with an advantage. I can demonstrate more once we get to the objective, but this is a big mistake that you guys continually make. It's a recurring issue, is not being set up on the objective. So for example, this is, well, here, I'll wait until the camera moves a little bit. But for example, right now, they have control of this, and the midline is like sort of here on this temple statue thing. This is like the midline between your two teams. And you're going to have to push this midline back until it is completely on like the edge of my screen here, where it's off the other side of this objective. And that's when you'll be standing on the objective and they won't be, right? But until you push it like from here to that point, they are able to get shots. So they are getting free value from pushing the objective or whatever and being set up on it first. Where, for example, if you're the one set up on it first, then you're the ones getting the free value. Or if both of you were set up in time roughly, then the starting line is basically right down the center of the map. And then you only have to move it this small distance compared to this whole extra huge distance that they're getting. This is like, how many shots does it take for you to push them back from this line to the midpoint? And that's all completely free, just because they did everything and had their early game planned out faster. I think the best example of this is probably Infernal Shrines, where if you just say, if we're set up on the objective super... Oh, my mic died. Okay, it's back. All right, hopefully it's working. Is if you say, for example, on Infernal Shrines, we're set up on the objective way ahead of our opponents. If we're set up in time to that, they don't even, like, their bot lane or something, the objective's top lane. If it takes them so long to get to top lane that by the time they're there, we already have 39 of the monkeys, it's as if we won that shrine for free, or for example. And so that from there, you can just, and like, obviously, if you're at 39, from there, it's like, you don't even need to know whether or not you win a team fight. You can take that a level talent, or a talent tier disadvantage or whatever, multiple levels down, and you can still win that shrine in that case. So then the question becomes, okay, if you can win it at 39, can you still win it at 30? I feel like probably with most any comp. Even if you lose a team fight, you can still probably, like, whatever, position and stagger a team fight or stall a team fight long enough to get 10 from 30 or whatever. So then 20, maybe if you only have an advantage of 20 and they're at 0 while you're at 20, maybe that's a little bit more iffy. But you can see, like, somewhere in this scale, it's a sliding spectrum where the earlier you're set up, the bigger the advantage. And I mean, just the earlier the better, right? There's like no downside to being there early. And it helps you win objectives for free, even in situations where you shouldn't even be able to fight an objective. Because your opponents will be slow. Like I said, they'll outplay themselves. If you guys just play the early game at the right pace or whatever, you just have to wait. You don't have to go crazy and like make super outplays or anything to win the game. All you have to do is wait, and your opponent will outplay themselves. They will be slow. They will rotate slow. They'll mess up on macro. They won't be set up on objectives. And from there, you'll have a lead. And then you just have to hold the advantage. It's much easier to hold the advantage once you already have it than it is to get it in the first place. But you don't really need to worry about that part of it, because your opponents will give it to you on a silver platter if you let them. And if you don't put yourselves behind yourself. So here, for example, like, they're already off the objective. Right now, you just need to hold this line. As long as this line of scrimmage or whatever is past this, like, circle thing, you know, depending on which angle you're thinking of it, You don't need to chase any further past this. So it looks like 3 people kind of all want to stay here, and then Crafty is out very far. You're still looking for kills, which is kind of fine because Scott comes down, but your team is not a team that looks for kills. You have 1 damage way back here who's a melee hero, so he can't really contribute to the Rainer. And if Thrall's damage comes on that Rainer, maybe he dies. And maybe if Crafty is coming in and he's more synergized with Scott and Rabid, you can get some extra spells, or your target calling on Rainer is better and things like that. Like, to me, it looks like Crafty is more going on to Rondon and Nubarak than Rainer. Solskito wasn't able to get a W shield off on either Scott or Crafty while he was standing next to Rainer, for example. So, like, to me, that looked like a missed kill, but I also just didn't think you needed to get that kill. I think Scott could, like, Scott, before he has Entomb, can't really attribute or contribute on ganks very well. So I think he could have just stayed top and worked on clearing their bruiser camp, and you would have been fine. So yeah, right now you're just keeping this line of scrimmage right here, and the Nubarak can't come onto it, and the rest of his team isn't onto it. You can push the lane out as well. You're sending Falstead up there and keeping Scott down here. That's kind of okay too. Now you finish off all the shots mid, so that's good. So you could have gotten basically all of the shots mid, I think, and instead you only got most of them. That's fine. So here they owled. Their camp is up sooner than yours, but only about like 5 seconds. Okay, you don't have Falstead, he's your damage. You only have 1 damage on the lower side of the map. You can't ever invade here. So Crafty is out really, really, really far. You also have nobody soaking bottom right now. Crafty, again, is anchoring for an invade that is never going to come. Or if it does come, you are happy. Crafty should be bottom getting this soak. This soak is all piled up from when you guys were fighting the objectives. You need to go clear the lane first, because it's probably built up to be a wave and a half or so. Almost 2 full waves here. I could count these minions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 2 full waves would be 14, and there was probably 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or more that probably died while he was standing up here. So you probably missed like another full wave just by not coming down here soon enough. And instead, Crafty was anchoring for an invade that didn't happen. If they invade there, you just back off. And you're getting a lane of soak, and you're free clearing their siege camp while they take your siege camp. But that doesn't matter. Because that means they are probably losing, if they're invading you, they're probably losing soak mid or bottom, for example, of the wave that they did their camp and also didn't have anybody down here to clear, as far as I know. Now your camp is free pushing. This is good. Scott's coming up trying to find Sonya. He can't really do that. This is kind of the awkward thing of having 3 melee, is you can't really do anything in lanes even when you're 3 together. And you want Falstead to be split. I think I told you guys, like, there's this holy trinity of having 1 tank, 1 healer, and a DPS in a lane as, like, to anchor it, and you can pretty much hold off. In theory, you could even hold off 4 people with that if you played it very well and had enough wave clear. But right now, this lane is decent on wave clear with Rhaegar and Johanna, but it's 3 melee. Generally, you would want the DPS to be ranged in that scenario, or the healer, or both, just to be able to poke them when they step in and pressure them back and stuff like that, at least poke their front line, stuff like that. Right now, you have no way of pressuring into them with this trio. And because Falstead's your only range and he wants to be top split apart from you, that's a little bit risky. So if you had imagined you got those 2 waves that I've called out here right now, you guys would be ahead for a level 10 compared to their XP. Maybe even more than that. Maybe you would even be at level 10 right about now. Like, I could probably go find a VOD of a higher level Sky Temple game, and I think generally you hit level 10 or either 4-6 minutes or like at 6:10 at the latest, roughly, or 6:05 or something. Right now they're all mid. You guys can play safe. So here's the thing, is like, you saw them all being aggressive bot. Anubarak mounted up. They're all backing off for some reason. Is it just because they don't have a wave? Solskito should mount up here, press his Z just to be moving around and be more mobile and stuff like that. So here, if they were looking to engage on you with the wave, Rainer would never queue the wave when, especially for like wave clear and stuff like that. And he wouldn't be running back from a thrall that's looking to engage into him, pretty much. He would welcome the thrall because a Nubrak would be sitting in this bush ready to like charge on him or something. Does Crafty check this bush? This left side bush? He doesn't immediately. He does there. So yeah, I think you guys should just try and call that they're missing as soon as like this happens, basically. You see 4 bottom? Okay, we don't see them bottom. You guys are up very far. You're over the halfway point on the map, both of you. Right now you're wanting to play safe and soak for level 10. You have a global. Sonya's going to have to come down, which means you can soak top and get the experience more than she can. So you guys should hit level 10 first, even if you're even here, but you're slightly ahead. Instead, they're ganking you mid. I mean, that was a pretty good gank from them, to be honest. But I think Falstad could have stayed top for another wave anyway. Now Scott has to go up there to catch that soak. You guys can't contest bottom at all. Go mid and push top and mid as hard as you can. You're never winning bottom. There's nothing to defend down here. You could maybe have one person down here safely to get this soak, but it probably has to be Johanna since she's the only one that could stay safe, stepped up sort of at that point. And even then, not really. You guys are missing a wave mid right now. That either Solskito or Rabid could have soaked because they just had to run around for 30 seconds. If you guys had all been mid and Johanna was staying bottom, you could have potentially invaded their bruisers. I think even Pi here is stepped out really far, but also Rabid is taking a very unsafe rotation. And Johanna hadn't even scouted this bush when he stepped in here. Like, I think Rabid should be way back here with Solskito. I'm not even sure if Crafty can safely check this bush. And he hasn't checked that bush at all either. So yeah, this is very unsafe pathing by Rabid. Have to use Ancestral and Sunder. And Cleanse. And Gust, I think. Yeah, so you guys use 3 ults and a Cleanse. It's almost 4 ults there. Just based on pathing. This is kind of what I mean by outplaying yourselves. Like now you can't fight them because you're down 3 ults and no Cleanse. So it's much harder for you to fight into them. Falstad is top here. You're also still 4 melee here in this group. Basically, this game was really hard based on your comp and draft. And, okay, you could Entomb Mariner here. What's the damage follow-up? You don't have Sunder. And even then your only damage is Thrall, who isn't known as being like a burst assassin that can 100 to 0 somebody. So this Entomb is like a nice idea, but not the time to look for it. Like, you would need Falstad to come in here and at least pump damage onto the Rainer. Yeah, that was just kind of delayed or whatever. Like, he flew in as the Entomb was pretty much dying. You also are playing against an Inubarak who can cocoon one person. If they only see 1 damage, then it's pretty easy to know who to cocoon, because the other 3 of you aren't ever killing somebody. So now you used all your ults and fly. Now you're getting the camp. This could be a time where they would invade. Instead, they get bruisers. I don't think you need both of you to do this camp. Either Rabid or Solskito could solo this, and yeah, it would be slower, but it would be okay. But you're also missing Soak from mid lane right now. Crafty in this case, because they could potentially have invaded, I'm okay with him anchoring there, but I think one of you should have been soaking mid. You still get most of the mid soak. I think you only missed like 2 or 3 minions there, but... And yeah, now Pi has to defend their bruiser camp, and you're still losing mid, so you can't really get your bruiser camp very easily. Scott has to come up from bottom to try and defend, so you can't push with your siege camp, and now you're losing the bottom soak. I think at this point you should just give them the fort. Like, the fort is 1 HP. You're never defending this. I think Scott should stay bottom and try and get the soak, but it is out very far and he doesn't have a fort, so he can't really safely soak this. I think you should try and get bruisers out here, and you just need to push down a fort somewhere. Right now you're down 3 forts to 0. I think getting the bruises and pushing top and just going for the top temple only and just giving bottom would be my play here. Scott can maybe try and soak mid if he's safe. Get the eye. You guys think they're on boss? The question is, can you contest a boss? You have no vision. Okay, you see them here, so they're not on boss yet. So you would want the wave pushed up so that you could see whether they were stepping on the temple or not. So that's also a problem. Like, at this point, this game is, like, very hard to win, obviously. You're very behind from this point. They can pretty much trade temples from now until the end of the game, and they will win because they're up 3 forts to 0, you know? So right now, their temple is hitting a keep, while yours is hitting a fort, and then eventually, when yours is hitting a keep, theirs will be hitting core, and they will win. So that was good to check the bush, although we still almost face-checked the bush. Like, we checked it when we're, like, 2 steps in front of it. 3 or 4 steps, but still. That should have been Crafty walking in first there, probably, or maybe Scott. Right now, Falstead should just be standing on the top temple. If you know they're not on boss, Falstead doesn't need to come down. You guys are very scared of a boss here, partly because of your comp that you can't easily clear a boss if it goes down to bottom anyway. But at this point, you need something. You need to get this temple. Falstead should just be standing on this the whole time. Ideally, you would have a bruiser camp pushing, and you would get this fort and maybe finish off mid fort. And then you guys should even have just been pushing this whole time. I think you probably have to give a boss, because with the 4 of you, the question is, can you defend if they start a boss? And I don't think the answer is yes. I think a Nubrak, Dragon Arrow, and stuff, they can just dive on you and probably kill you. One of you. He could cocoon Rhaegar so that he can't cleanse or Ancestral, and then just blow up Thrall, any number of things. You can see they feel completely free to just walk through here, right? Like, they have no fear at all of the 4 of you, even though they saw all 4 of you bottom. So if they can pressure you off from the boss, they can probably do the boss. And yeah, now this Bruiser camp, they're not having to dedicate one person bottom lane. So not only can they come up and potentially gank you on this camp or gank the Falstead, but they're also just able to be up on the higher side of the map now and defend the camp when it's in this lane. And there's not a fort there for it to pressure. There's a keep all the way over there, so it gives them much more room to clear it. And yeah, you probably would have finished off mid fort as well, had you gotten the camp beforehand. And then you're only down 1 fort there and half a keep or something, which is much closer to an even game. Falstead can't soak this far out top lane safely without taking eye. So also, you guys getting that camp and pushing top would have enabled you to capture eye, and maybe you can hold that while Scott soaks bottom lane here. I think you want to freeze this as close to your keep as you can. You probably even want to freeze mid at this point. And then yeah, this is like anti-freezing, right? Like, at this point you would want to freeze the top lane also, but now it's pushing. And you keep having to go further and further and further and further to get the soak, because the camp is pushing it. So now their siege camp is up. This is also a time where they could invade. Or they're looking on Falstead, one of the two. I believe right now he's showing in the eye, potentially. So they know Falstead is top. They were looking to invade your camp. But you see they got their camp first, before they looked to invade. So Anubarak is mid. He's stepped up very far. They owled mid. They saw you on your camp. They are not hard engaging on you with Anubarak right now. That's what Crafty's trying to scout, sort of. I would actually have Crafty probably standing in this bush. That way he could see if somebody was coming in this way. Right now he's almost just blocking himself out of vision. Or Leo has to step up further and see if they're coming in this way. So right now they can be here and then just instantly jump on Sosquito. But you see they get their camp first and then send an owl. Or a Sonic Arrow and then an owl looking to invade. So they wanted to see, like, were you slow on this? How many people did you have here? Because they probably saw Thrall and Leo. And they wanted to see, were you safely waiting in this bush, or were you anchoring in this bush? And they couldn't really walk in through Joe, or which way could they have gone? Maybe they come in through the bottom or something. But they were looking to invade, but they got their camp first. And you got your camping time, so now they don't have an opportunity to invade. The anchoring there by Crafty was still a good idea, but yeah, just in the wrong bush, I think, because he blocked himself out of vision. You still think they can be on boss? You see Sonya top, you need to pressure something bottom, because Sonya is going to be top. So I don't think you can pressure bot fort, because it still has most of a wall, you don't really have much of a wave, or a siege camp. So you either pressure for kills mid, in which case Thrall needs to come up and not soak this. Getting this soak is good, but right now you see somebody out of position on the map, basically, while you have a global advantage. You need to, like, take advantage of this. Way sooner, even. Like, as soon as I see Sonya up here, they're backing off. I see Sonya, I would say, like, hard engage on, probably not a Nubarak, because you can get out, but you need to look for something here. Like, I would maybe even just have Falstad fly on the left side of the boss and look to gust somebody, if you can see them. You don't really have any way of getting vision. Leoric is maybe the best option you have. Okay, Hanzo is stepped out mid. I would fly behind Hanzo and gust him towards Thrall and Leo. And then you're going to need to, like, Bless Shield, Sunder, like, root him long enough that he'll die. Maybe you get Tyrande also, if you had gusted from over here, for example, or in the middle of the lane, over to this part of the lane, where Rabbit is standing right now. And then Johanna probably should come up over here. But you guys need to communicate that this is what you're looking for. And then Solskito could be here. So right now this is kind of what you're going for. You go for Raynor here. Solskito's not anywhere near you. So right now, instead of taking a 5-on-4, you're taking a 4-on-4. Right? And you guys still are not a burst damage pit comp. So you get a good entomb, and you almost kill like 3 separate people, but don't actually kill anyone. Now it's a 5-on-5. But you used ults again, didn't use Gust, and didn't use your global, even though you had the global advantage. You had Falstad walk all the way to middle. And instead you had the person soaking in the lane also have to walk. So maybe ideally Falstad just leaves top and comes bottom and is soaking that while you guys are looking for a fight mid. Controlling I because the next temple is top or something. And looking for a fight maybe over at the Bruiser camp or something like that. The point is you have a lot of options. But we're also missing all these opportunities, sort of. I think this game would be very hard regardless of the missed opportunities. Like, I think if the other team was playing decently, that based on the lead they got early game, you guys shouldn't really have a chance to win, honestly. And your comp, but it's okay. This game is still very close. Well, not super very close, but a lot closer than it could or should have been. So at this point, you guys still have a global advantage, but you're down 16, but not down by very much. I think you could have one person soaking mid, maybe, and the rest of you look to pressure on the temple, and you can either, or you threaten boss, one of the two. I see, yeah, actually, boss is probably a better call. If you see one top, I also saw Raynor up there. That's 2 people who are immobile. Yeah, you need to call the boss. Scott needs to come up here instantly. He needs to be in this bush, or in this bush, and ghosting through people when they come in, or entombing them off of the point. And now, you have to gust, and then probably kill a Nubrak, because he's the only person who can really get on the point past the gust. Also, you have to zone off the Anubarak so that he can't cocoon the Falstad, so that the Falstad can get the gust off. So either Falstad, if you see Anubarak coming around the top side, which you completely do, because he goes up the left side here, you see him walking around the top side here, he's walking to the right side, so Falstad needs to be over in this side. You just need to get as far away from the cocoon as possible. So it gets pinged or whatever. At this point, even, maybe I just have to gust away the Anubarak. I'm probably sundering the Anubarak right now, or rooting him. Sunder is better because it's probably harder to react to, and you can probably root out of the Sunder if you aim it good enough. But you guys also needed more damage on this earlier, which your team comp does not really have good damage to clear this. Okay, there's a root. He gets a stun. Whoops. And the cocoon comes down. So now you need to break the cocoon instantly. But you can't do that because you're all stuck standing on the point. There the Sunder comes out. This is really a problem of him getting the cocoon off, was this issue. The other option is if Leo's up here and hitting the boss sooner, because he's like 10 seconds late on this. Is even right now, like Rabid maybe needs to scout in this bush. Okay, now you see Anubarak, so now you know he's on the left side. Now I think Scott just has to follow the Anubarak. You need to try and get like a dismount on him, ghost after him even. Try and get a dismount on him so that he can't do this. And maybe you guys have to like walk into them over here. Like if Anubarak's way over here, Taranda's way out here. Like maybe you guys can get a pick with Johanna Bless Shield and kill a DPS or two. And then if Anubarak dives in on this point, their DPS won't kill you all in 2 seconds from full HP like they do here. Solskudo dies first, even threw an Ancestral on himself. Didn't go off, unfortunately. You guys get the boss. Falstad comes out of this. The question is, can you kill one person? I think, and this needs to be target calling, and also from your tanks. You either kill Blaze or Tyrande, it looks like to me. But Blaze can jump away, so yeah, I don't think there's any way you kill somebody here. I think chasing in here is risky. You don't have a healer, your tanks are super low. We wasted Gust for no reason. Granted, it was good to just like secure that you were safe at that point. But now, for example, when they're defending the boss, now might be a good time to Gust. That way the boss would have maybe gotten a fort or something. But that was more of a symptom of the boss fight being a lot closer than it should have been. Here you guys can't step out to soak lanes or whatever. Top is pushing in, mid is out pretty far. I think you want to get bruisers out at some point. There's not much you can do though, but Falstad's getting bruisers. You can't step out here, you gotta be super safe. No way to get engaged on. Here's an Uberak. I can just tell looking at this, he's gonna go on Rabid. Scott's able to get out, but Rabid's out too far. He has no mobility, he even steps in. Okay, he doesn't go on Rabid. That's lucky. There they get a stun. Still have to blow Ancestral on Scott. Right here, Scott needs to ghost out as soon as he sees a Uberek. He needs to press his unstoppable thing here so that he can't get stun locked. He gets 2 stuns on him before he gets the unstoppable and gets chunked very hard. That's why the Ancestral has to come out. You probably lose the keep at this point. Falstad probably can't solo bruisers very easily. Okay, he does. He also takes a lot of damage doing it though. And then because we already used Ancestral earlier, you can't step up to defend this keep. Like they already popped Hyperion. They have a camp pushing with it. You can't step into this. You don't have damage even if you do step in and get into him here or anything. So what Scott's trying to do here is like not the plan or whatever. Scott is not the initiate either on Leo. That's Johanna's job, or maybe even Falstad or Thrall. But he's going to follow up, and he's going to look to come in with Ghost and stuff first to get a cocoon off. I mean, at this point, the game is over, right? It's kind of not really any need to watch that one. So yeah, this one was rough, but I was just like, okay, well, that happened first game. Bounce back. You'll be fine. So, Infernal Shrines. This is a good map for you guys. You ban Kel'Thuzad, which makes sense because you're banning Zeratul second. You want to see what they ban first, and you know that they're like maybe you get a free Zeratul ban or something, and then you can ban Maiev or Ana or something else that you don't want to play against. First pick a Nubrek. They take Johanna to Haka, which is fine. Jaina Tyrande. They ban Blaze. You ban Kel'Thas. I liked this draft a lot better. Alfurian Thrall. So right now, they are almost making the same mistake you guys did. So they're playing 3 melee right now, into Jaina, for one. And our Nubarak's not bad into melee also. Imperius shits on melee.